Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Network. Have you recovered? Have you gotten over it? Are you still in shock? Are you still upset? It is what it is. Um, I mean, I don't know, people. It's unfathomable, really, that we haven't bought one player in the transfer window, given the fact that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that we were in need of a backup in the squad. But it is what it is. The squad is as it is. There are no additional players to talk to you about. The transfer window shut. And I'm trying to sort of work out, and I'm sure we all are, trying to sort of understand exactly why we're in the position that we're in. Um, David Moyes himself alluded to the fact that he needed more players in the transfer window. David Moyes talked about the players were tired, that they were fatigued, that they just couldn't, they played and played and played, and they just needed a respite. And yet, you know, I'm laughing because it's just unfathomable. It's just incredible that we haven't done what we all thought we were going to do, and that's get a couple of players in. Look, the first thing I want to do is I want to make a little statement before I go into the 6 offers that we'd made. Um, this channel has been sort of accused of bringing you lies about transfers that apparently we for clickbait and to get your viewing figures up, or our viewing figures up, we make up stories about transfers. Now, the one thing I've always said, whenever we give you a transfer story, it's because it's out there already. We don't make up any of the transfer stories that we bring to you. I spend a whole week going through all the websites to look for transfer stories, and I think, okay, everyone needs to know about this one and this one and this one. And what I'm trying to do is I bring to you what's already out there, and then give you a little bit more about the player himself. His stats, his playing career, what his strengths are, and so on and so forth. The one thing I don't do is bring you stories that aren't out there already. So don't shoot the messenger, people. We actually bring you transfer stories that you yourselves, could actually go out there and read for yourselves. So I just wanted to make that clear, because we've been kind of accused of, in order to increase our viewing figures, we've been accused of bringing you stories that are lies. They're not lies. Well, they're not my lies. They may be lies, but they're not my lies. I just want to make that clear. Right, let's get into it. So 6 transfer deals were offered, apparently, according to all the stories, and they related to a number of different players. First off, we were told that we made a £50 million bid for Calvin Phillips. Now, when we heard about this, we're like, hang on a minute, we don't need Calvin Phillips. As good a player as he is, what's the deal here? Now, apparently, this offer wasn't made recently. This offer was made way back when we played Leeds United in the FA Cup. Now, the story goes, and again, this isn't me. I'm no ITK. I can only tell you what I hear. But, apparently, whilst the board were watching the FA Cup game, they obviously had guests from Leeds United, and they had Angus Kinnear, who is the CEO of Leeds United and happens to have a link with West Ham. He was also the managing director of West Ham United, overseeing the move to the London Stadium. So there's a connection there, there's a link, etc. And apparently during the game, a cheeky £50 million bid was made, or offer was made to Angus from a director, board director for Phillips. Now look, this is information that we've received. This isn't what I've made up. This is what we've been told, had happened during that game. And it was turned down, and it was, and no more was heard of it. But we only got to hear about it during the last week of the transfer window. And so, of course, when the other bid came in, the other £50 million bid came in for Rafinha, all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. Hang on a minute, two £50 million bids for two Leeds players. What's going on? Look, the £50 million bid was made. Apparently, we offered to buy him and then loan him back to Leeds United, Calvin Phillips, until the end of the season. But it was declined, it was turned down, and that was that. So, is there any truth to it? I think, I've been trying to be positive. I'm trying to put positive spins on what we've heard over the last few days, and I think here's one side of what I think. My immediate thought was £50 million for Calvin Phillips. Hang on a minute, we're selling Declan. That was my immediate thought, and off I went, tapping away, WhatsApping to people I know, asking, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" And we were all sort of bantering, etc. But my immediate thought was £50 million for Calvin Phillips. Declan Rice is going to be sold in the summertime. And then when we start to sort of think about it a bit more logically, you think, hang on, maybe there's another point to this. Quite possibly, it's possible that you would want to build around Declan Rice, and why not bring a player like Calvin Phillips of that stature alongside to play? You see what he's like for both of them, like for England. Then why not bring them into the same team, domestic team? And I mean, can you imagine those two? No disrespect to Souček. Souček is great. Souček could be moved further forward in a more attack-minded role, with Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice patrolling the midfield. So I thought, well, maybe there's a good reason for this. There's looking for the future, trying to build for the future, etc. And quite possibly this makes a lot of sense. And when you look at it that way, and you look at maybe building around Declan Rice and bringing a player of this level in, then all of a sudden you start to think it's sensible. Is it true? I don't know. I can't tell you hand on heart whether this was a real bid or not. But if we are making bids like this, then surely that's got to be good for the future. It's got to bode well for the future. And it also proves or disproves my point when I've said many times we're never going to buy a player over 30 million. There you go. I was wrong. So I don't know whether to believe. I think I would like to think that we made a serious bid for him. But 50 million, when we think Declan Rice is worth over 100 million, 50 million was probably a bit of a tongue-in-cheek offer, because Phillips, if Declan is worth 120, 130 million, what's Calvin Phillips worth? 70, maybe? 65, 70, perhaps? Okay. The next one, of course, was his teammate, Rafinha. And, Rafinha, we made a bid this week, and we know it was an actual bid because Leeds United turned it down quite publicly. And, however, just like the Calvin Phillips value, £50 million. Now, again, let me try and put my positive hat on this and ask myself, why did West Ham United make a £50 million bid for a player like Rafinha now? Well, it's quite simple. They were trying to steal a march, because come summertime, Leeds United know that the big money is on its way for Rafinha. Quite possibly, almost definitely, in fact. You can see a club coming in and making a bid for Rafinha of perhaps 70, 80 million pounds. Quite possible, very possible indeed. So I think West Ham, it was a shit deal, a shit bid to make, 50 million. If they were really serious, maybe they should have chanced their arm and offered 65, maybe 70. But do West Ham do that? Do West Ham buy players of that value? I don't know. No. And so I'm trying to put it in context. We maybe try to steal a march, but Leeds United are not stupid. Not going to have their pants pulled down, in the January transfer window with a cheeky £50 million bid, when they themselves know that come the summertime, they can get a lot more money for him. So who else have we got? Well, then, of course, we started on some of the other players, didn't we? We started looking at all the attention. I mean, I'm going to get to a defender in a minute, but all the attention then went on to Darwin Nunez, the Benfica striker. all of a sudden we've made a 50, 60 million pound bid for him as well. But this was done on deadline day. Now, if you're going to make a serious bid for a player of this, of this stature, you're not going to do it on deadline day, are you? You're not going to get that deal across the line on deadline day. It's going to be too much of an ask. Plus the fact that he was over in Uruguay. Now, look, or in South America, playing football for Uruguay. Now, look, you can do it. It can be done. Um, uh, you know, arrangements can be made for the player to have medical. You've only got to put your deal sheet into the Premier League before 11 o'clock for the deal. Just to buy more time. So even though he was in South America, the deal could have still, been managed. Difficult, but it could have been managed. But would you make a serious bid for a player of 60 odd million pounds or 50, 60 million pounds on deadline day? Now, the reason we were given the reason why it was done on deadline day is because West Ham didn't want to get gazumped. They didn't want to get fucking gazumped, by another team. I mean, how serious are you about the deal? If you're serious, on the 1st of January, you go knocking on Benfica's door and saying, we're interested in your player. What deal are we going to talk about? Where are we? What starting price are we going at? You don't go at the last minute and go, can we buy your player for 50, 60 million pounds? And oh, by the way, you don't have a chance of maybe replacing him. But apparently the story is that Benfica had 2 players lined up to replace Nunez if he was sold. But again, it was one of those, apparently the player himself came out and said, I don't want to join, I want to join the Champions League team. Well, sell him the vision. Spend the whole of January selling this player the vision of West Ham United. We just missed out on Champions League by 2 points last season. We're fifth in the league. Come to West Ham United and help us get to the Champions League, rather than going knocking on the back door at the last minute, going, can we have your player for 50, 60 million pounds? How are you selling the player the vision? You should have been working on this from day one, not working on it on day 31, as we seem to do. It's ridiculous, and clearly he turned us down, and the deal and the offer was turned down, whatever the offer was. Now, look, interestingly with Nunez, he's a good player. I like him. When I look at his profile, etc., I think he would be a perfect fit for the Premier League, and considering how David Moyes plays his style of football and the type of striker he wants, he would be a perfect fit for West Ham United. But you don't do the deal at the last minute, and I think he's a player that he's come through. He's only 22 years of age, but he's kind of cut his teeth in Spain. He only played in the second division in Spain, but it's at Benfica that he's really sort of shown proper progress. It's here where he's really shone, but it's only shone in the last 2 seasons. So as good as he is, and being a Uruguayan international, etc., no doubt at all, he'd be a very, very good player. But I think he's destined for I don't know. I don't want to say bigger, better teams, but I think he's destined to be playing, in Champions League football in the next season or so. He's done it for Benfica themselves, and of course, he wants to continue that. But you don't go in making a serious bid for a player like that, a 50, 60 million pound bid for a player on the last day of the season. I just think it's just one of those that sort of grounded on me, or grind on me, or whatever you want to call it. Right, Jesse Lingard. Now, look, it's the worst kept secret, isn't it? That Jesse Lingard. By the way, I'm going to come to your comments in a minute, people. Let me run through the slides, and then I will come to your comments. Jesse Lingard. Look, it is a worst kept secret. David Moyes threw all his eggs in one basket, and this is who he really wanted. Let's not beat about the bush. Bids for Nunez and Rafinha, etc., etc. Yeah. Jesse Lingard is the player that he really, really wanted. And unfortunately, David Moyes, I think, kept hoping for that door to open to be able to negotiate with Lingard. And Man United kept closing it. Last day of the transfer window, all of a sudden, Rangnick said, you can go. David Moyes made the bid. And then Man United board shut it down completely and said, we're not dealing with you. Then, of course, we're in panic mode. I think that's why the Nunez offer was made after, the very last minute that Lingard was definitely not coming. And of course, the other bid that was made, if I can find the right slide, and probably not, let's go to collect a car at the end. And of course, the other bid that was made at 7 o'clock yesterday was Duvan Zapata. Now, Duvan Zapata, we've had an interest in Duvan Zapata for something like about 7 or 8 years. I mean, I kid you not. Almost every transfer window, the name Duvan Zapata comes up. West Ham United are interested. He's now 30 years of age. Now, look, he's a great player. He's a very, very decent player. He's a bit of an Antonio, another, a 30-year-old. He's 30 years of age, a bit of an Antonio, etc. And we apparently made a £5.5 million bid to bring Zapata in on loan to buy at the end of the season. This, to me, just sounded a little bit desperate. We'd gone through all the channels of Rafinha, no. Nunez, no. We really want Lingard. That ain't happening, etc., etc. And it was, oh shit, it's 7 o'clock at night on deadline day. What are we going to do? I tell you what, let's pull out Duvan Zapata. I'm not saying that we don't have an interest in the player. Like I said, we've had an interest in him for about 7 or 8 years, but the deal's never been done in 7 or 8 years. And look how many managers we've had. Surely David Sullivan could have slipped him in for one manager or another. But and look, joking aside, apparently the offer was made, 5.5 million loan to buy, and agreed to it. And apparently they went quiet on us. So we basically had 4 hours between 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock to go knocking on their door, metaphorically, and say, "What the hell? What's going on? You've agreed a deal. Now you've all gone quiet." And it's really, really weird. And it didn't happen. And it's another deal that fell through. Now, I'll tell you what, to be really honest with you, I'm going to go with Nigel Khan's mantra. And he's right, actually. When I've looked at the stats for myself, he's absolutely right. I was made aware by Nigel, and several of us were made aware by him, that under David Moyes, we've scored more goals on average per game than any Premier League manager since Billy Bonds. Did you know that? I might have said it before, but it's absolutely weird that it's absolutely interesting that David Moyes has actually been more successful attack-wise than any other Premier League manager since Billy Bonds. Okay, so in a way, I'm kind of like not. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about not getting a striker in, but I feel that we might just have enough to continue scoring, because look at the goals we've scored this season. They've been shared out by many of the players. Fornals have been scoring, Lanzini, our defenders have been scoring, Bowen, etc., etc., etc. So I'm concerned by not having another striker or another attacking player at West Ham, but not overly concerned, or not as much concerned as I am about our defence. And this is where we get to Duj Kaleta. And what the hell happened here? We were interested in the player. We were interested at an early stage for the player. He's been scouted. He's been watched. He's been seen. Literally, being watched playing. Convinced that it was going to happen, etc., etc. And for £15 million, we couldn't agree a deal. We wanted a loan to buy, this effing loan to buy, which sometimes I don't have a problem with it, but when you're not sure about a player, a loan to buy is the right thing. I don't know what's there not to know about Duj Kaleta. He's proven. He's proven he did well in the Austrian league. He moved to France. He's been playing against some of the top attacking players in the world: Mbappe, Messi, etc., etc. I know the French league overall isn't as strong as the Premier League, but you do have some very good footballers who play there. PSG have been buying them all up. Marseille have bought some very good footballers themselves. So it's not as if he's been unproven, untested. He has played against some of the best footballers in around. And of course, Croatian international. He's played. Again, he's played against some of the world's best, and so on. And so this whole thing about us going in for him on a loan to buy deal, I couldn't understand. You know, 25 years of age, 15 million pound bid, or 15 million pound price. That's a no-brainer, isn't it? Surely to God, that you're not going to lose money on him. If for example he had a really bad season, we bought him and he had a really bad season, we could still sell him in a year's time, or year and a half's time, and still probably get a good part of that 15 million pound back. It wouldn't be such a big deal. And then I heard about the fact that he wanted 80 grand a week wages. Well, what's wrong with that? Most of our central defenders are on that, if not more. I think Zuma is on over 100 grand a week. I think Ogbono's on something like 70, 80 grand a week. So it's not as if he would be out of our salary price range. So this thing about us not being able to agree, just like 15 million, if we've been making bids of 50, 60 million pounds for some strikers, surely 15 million pound, given that he would have only been the only player to come into West Ham during this transfer window, would seem like a bit of a snip, really, wouldn't it? It would seem like a no-brainer. I'm just really, I'm shocked, to be honest with you, that we haven't got this one over the line. He's got great aerial ability. He's good with his feet. He's a good passer of the ball. He can carry the ball out of defence. I mean, I don't need to go on. You've all probably seen it a million times already. And I don't need to sell him to you guys. What I do not understand, and we had guests on yesterday on the show, and I asked the question. I said, who does the deals? Who identifies the players? Now with the new regime, with David Moyes and his scouting network, they identify the players. Who goes and does the deals? I can't see David Moyes and Newman sitting there in front of the board of the player that we want to buy, going, well, what deal are we doing? Surely that's our board that negotiate the deal. Now, with a loan to buy thing, this may have been a David Moyes preference, but I just don't get why we wanted to loan this player. For what reason? I buy him. It would have been a no-brainer. David Moyes keeps going on about, with the greatest of respect to him, as this ain't a David Moyes knocking shop, because he's done absolutely fantastic for us without a shadow of a doubt. But he keeps talking about, I only want to bring in better players. He had Mark Noble on Rio Ferdinand's podcast last night saying the same thing. I'm not going to bring players in for the sake of it. I want to improve the squad. Are you telling me that Duj Kaleta wouldn't not have improved our central defence? I mean, if people think that he's not better than, with the greatest of respect to them, Diop and Dawson, then I'll eat my hat. I don't own a hat, but if I had one, I'd eat it. I'm really shocked. And to be honest with you, like I said earlier, I'm concerned about our attack, but not as much as I'm concerned about our defence. We've been leaking goals again. We had a really good spell of being really tight and not conceding goals, keeping clean sheets, etc. Then, by twist of fate, we lost almost all our back. In fact, we did at some point lose all our first choice back line. We had Soufal out. We had Ogbonna with his injury. We had Zuma with his injury. We had Creswell with his injury. And it's a surprise to me, and a fantastic surprise, that despite that, we're still fifth in the league. All right, I know teams have got games in hand, etc., but we're still fifth in the league. But despite that, we've done all right, but we have conceded silly goals. And I mean, are you telling me that Duj Kaleta would not have made it better? All right, I hate it because I didn't really want to rant. I just felt like, I was trying to put justification onto what happened with this transfer window. I couldn't really understand why, at the very, very least, with even David Moyes suggesting, well, not suggesting, saying outright that the team are tired, etc., etc., the fatigue. I need to bring more bodies in, etc. Duj Kaleta, really? Not good enough? Had to be a loan to buy deal? Pay the 15 mil. and get the player in. He would have been decent for us. He's played Champions League football. He's played international football. It's not going to be unfathomable to him to play Premier League football. All right, let's go into the chat and say hello to everybody before I go. Good evening to you, Neil. I hope you're well. Good evening, Wolfram. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Bernie, good evening, everyone. So after yesterday's lack of any transfers, we now need down to seeing who we can pick up for free. Not very inspiring for a club who are fifth in the Premier League. Well, I don't know. There is no talk about any players being coming in for free, but I understand, Diego Costa for one, etc. If we want a free player, I seriously want to look for a free defender, to be honest with you. Bernie again, but I'm not into meltdown at all, but do wonder what our beloved West Ham has been doing for the last 30 days. In January, it all seems very little. I'm sure there's been a lot of work going on in the background, but I feel the frustration. I'm frustrated too. Bernie again, does anyone really fully understand why we're not even giving Alex Kral a game, or why we're not playing the under-23 hot striker? Well, that's an interesting point, because Kral's come out and said, he doesn't know where he's at because he's accustomed to playing regularly. Now, everyone's saying he's crap. David Moyes doesn't trust him. If David Moyes didn't trust him, he would have given him back to Spartak in the transfer window. He didn't do that. Now, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know but even Spartak came out. I think their coach or whatever said, if you're not using him, give him back to us. But we've kept hold of him. So I can only assume from that Kral will get some game time in the second half of this season. Who knows? Under 23s, if you're talking about, I don't know which hot striker you're talking about, but for me, if it's Perkins, personally, I don't think Perkins is quite ready. I think he's good. I don't think he's quite ready. I think Oko Flex in the under 23s is much more ready. Now, Oko Flex is a left-sided attacking right-footed player, a bit like a Lingard, he plays from that side. But I tell you something, he'll offer us something different up front. Good evening, James. Good evening, all you happy-ish hammers. The quadruple is still on-ish. Of course it is. Vinay, Moyes' Antonio taxes have been found out. Other teams have adapted. We want to see Oko Flex and even Yarmolenko given more game time. It's interesting about Yarmolenko because he does have a goal in him, but he just looks lazy, doesn't he? And I think his injuries have taken it out of him. He's had a couple of serious injuries. It's taken it out of him. But in terms of Oko Flex, I fully agree. Good evening, Pete, how are you? Richard, how are you? Good evening, Helen, how are you? Vinay, the deceit by GSB upsets me more than signings, pretending to sign players as a PR stunt. Well, the interesting thing is, Rafinha was an offer. It was just a shit offer. Apparently, Phillips was an offer and it was turned down immediately. Apparently, the Nunez was a real offer and it was turned down by the club. So I think they are putting the offer. I think they are putting bids in. It's just that the bids are just like nowhere near the value of what the players are really worth. That's the difference. That's a difference. Good evening to you, Trev. I hope you're well. Oliver, how are you, mate? Let's see how the rest of the season pans out. I don't want to hear moaning from Moyes and company about tired leg, fixture congestion, too many games. European football is a strain. I'm absolutely with you, Oliver. I 100% agree with you on this one. I think, Moyes has got no leg to stand on. I just think it will be, if we start losing games and David Moyes starts complaining that we've got a fixture congestion, I fear how the fans might react to that towards him. I agree with you. Oliver, injuries again. We have no depth of squad. The under-23s are not ready to step up. They knew the challenges that lay ahead. Now they have to prove to compete on all fronts. It's interesting though, Oliver, because when we were doing the transfer window and the lack of transfer news, I was sort of talking about the squad, and we actually do have options up front. Interestingly, we've got 6 different players up front that you can mix them around. Let me try and remember them all: Fornals, Lanzini. Fornals, Lanzini, Bowen, Benrahma, Antonio, and there's one other. Someone is going to tell me one other. There's 6 anyway, and so you can, and if you throw in Yarmolenko, that's 7 as well. So we actually do have players. Oh, Vlasic, that's the one I was missing. We do actually have players where we can mix it around up front. It's at the back that I'm worried about. Creswell's only 1 injury away, and then we're stuck at left back. Dawson and 1 injury away, Zuma 1 injury away, then we're stuck. Diop is low on confidence at the moment. Right back, we do all right. Right back, we've got Fredericks, he can do a job. Frederick, Soufal, we've got Ben Johnson. One can argue Ben Johnson on the left side if Creswell gets injured again. Yeah, you can argue that that's possible as well. And you can also argue that maybe you can play three at the back with Creswell, Zuma, Dawson. You can. But one injury, and I think we're more stuck there than we are up front. Oliver again, failure to be, and when it goes to the under 23s, I get you, but there are probably two under 23 players at the moment that I might have some confidence in. Already mentioned one, Okoflex, and also Ajibola Alese. Anton knows about Alese. Alese and Baptiste, we waxed lyrical about them 2 pre-seasons ago, where they both played brilliantly. And interestingly, Alese in this pre-season also played at left back and looked good as well. So, I'm thinking, David Moyes, if you haven't brought any players in, then clearly, when any of your senior players are not going to be available, you've got to be looking at the under 23s and you've got to give them an option to play. And I think maybe we might see a few of them on Saturday against Kidderminster. Oliver again, failure will be down to their lackluster display during the transfer window. Nothing else, not bad luck. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us. Agreed. Vinay, under 23 should be given a chance. Okoflex, better than a tired Antonio. I 100% agree. What can you lose? I am expecting Okoflex to start on Saturday, not to be on the bench. I'm expecting him to start. Antonio won't be there anyway because he's over in playing for Jamaica, and he won't be back. Will he be back? He'll be back, but he'll be jet lagged, etc. Trev, I'm at a loss. Let's just sign Diego Costa on a free. You'll probably end up headbutting Moyes during a half-time bust up and knocking himself out. You can't nut a Scotsman no matter how big. I said. Thank you for making me laugh, mate. Black Country, every evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Father Snowman. Vinay, I don't understand under 23s not ready. 20 years old, go to war. I was a mercenary age 21 and saw combat in 3 continents. I'm afraid of you now, Vinay. No, but you're right. Look, Okoflex is 19 years of age. Alese is 21 years of age. If you're not ready yet, when the hell are you going to be ready? And other teams play their youngsters and do quite well, thank you, out of them. Funky T, we couldn't get the ones we wanted. Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U didn't buy anyone either. There wasn't much out there on offer and all overpriced. We've got 5th so far with this team. It's a really good point, Funky T, and that is a good positive, and it's something that we have to remember. We are still 5th in the league, and even if we do go down a couple of places, we're still up there and we're still battling away. Grant, evening all. Have we picked up any free agents today? I don't think we are actually going to pick up any free agents. Like I said, if it's going to be a free agent, I'd much rather see getting a defender in than a striker. I'm being really, really honest. Mark, glad next fixture is away from home. A toxic stadium would have more of a negative effect than a botched transfer window. Yeah, let's hope we do well on Saturday against Kidderminster and not make it hard work. Trevin, I agree. Many kids play without fear. That's a good point. You've got to look at the advantages. Moyes seems to dwell too much on the negatives. They have to play. Harley, considering the lack of depth, the player moving on in the summer and risk of losing Rice and Bone, we have shot ourselves in the gut. Could be 2 years of rebuild come. I'm going to do another show. I don't know whether I'll leave it for the weekly next week or whether I do another show later on this week to talk about what happens in the summertime, because this summer's transfer window is going to be one of the biggest in West Ham United's history. And I'm not trying to make it a big sensation, but it's actual fact, because you're absolutely right. We've got a number of players out of contract. We've got Noble retiring. We've got a number of players who are going to be well into their 30s. You can still do a job, but it's going to be that much harder in the Premier League when you're well into your 30s to do a job. Antonio's 32, he'll be 33. I think Creswell's going to be 34 next year. Ogbona's already 34 or 33, 34. We've got a number of aging players, and it's I've worked out we need at least 6 players just to stand still. So going back to the point about the under 23s, if you don't find out what they're like now, when are you going to find out? Because you could uncover a gem. Imagine uncovering 2 gems in the under 23s. That immediately eases the pressure of what we need to do in the transfer window in the summertime. But I've got a feeling we've got quite a few free players or free players out of contract that are going to be available that Moyes is going to go for. And I've got a list in my head. Well, no, it's written down, and I'll do a show specifically on that later on this week. Good evening, Martin. I hope you're well. Richard, DJ Russ gets signed up last night outside the train. He missed the bus home. Jay Woods, let's hope we get no injuries because we're absolutely screwed if we do. Russ, we did buy a player, Anthony Marshall. Yeah, and we bought a couple of players from in the women's team as well, mate. Come on, keep up. Anthony Marshall, Callum Marshall, not Anthony Marshall. Callum Marshall from Linfield. 4 goals in 4 games. Tony Hammer, Ryan Sullivan selling next year, so he's not bothered. I keep hearing this, and I wonder, the deadlines ended about paying tax and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there with the owners. Harley, they're shooting ourselves in the foot. They're shooting ourselves in the nuts. Black Country, yeah, Chelsea didn't spend, but look at their bench. There is a difference, and yeah, absolutely. I can't do every comment. Please forgive me because I've got to go for dinner at 7 o'clock, so I've got to rush. Mark, the transfer window fiasco is only acceptable if we somehow qualify for Europa League again. Time to be the 12th man, make a bad situation worse. Could be even better. We may win it this season. Let's not forget that. 18th of May, 2022 at Seville, me celebrating my 60th birthday, West Ham United win the Europa League. Come on, you Irons. You know it's going to happen. It's written in the stars. It's certainly written in my star, and I'm deluded, I know. Martin, still, the content of West Ham network is excellent. Genuinely, your coverage is much appreciated. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to be to start off somber, but I just thought I had to make that statement. Helen, how do we know what deals were real or not? We will never know. Good point, Helen. Yeah, fair play. Grant, great channel. We know you're not clipped. Thank you. Much appreciated. Robert, the summer transfer window is going to be huge. Just mentioned it. Players retiring, contract, yeah. Aging squad, etc. Absolutely, Robert. Absolutely. God, you imagine... Imagine, when is it? August. I mean, I'm going to lose my hair. If we get to the last day of the transfer window, given the fact that I think we need up to 6 players, if we get to the last day of the transfer window in the summer and we've yet to sign a player, oh my God! I mean, it's going to be madness, isn't it? Richard, has Russ been seen since? Can players comment on here? Players can comment on here. Yeah. Russ, have you got any players to comment on here, mate? Harley, got to go in the free agent pool now and at least try. Costas, Rachi, Beric, all would improve the overall squad. I don't think Moyes will do it, but it's going to be interesting because he can do it at any time. Good evening, Daniela. I get what people are saying and blaming the club, but I'm not sure the players are willing to move, and there's not a lot of players going on freeze in the summer. Yeah, I tell you what, there are loads of very, 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 very good players going to be available in the summertime out of contract. Mike, problem is other strength in this season we will struggle. We've got a good squad. We've got a few players that are underperforming at the moment. Diop, I thought Diop would take his chance, and he just looks a little bit nervous at the moment, and it's a shame because I thought he would relish being given an opportunity. And we've had other players that have not come in and out. Fornals, he had his baby, so clearly, he hasn't been on form. Lanzini in and out of form. Benrahma in and out of form. I guess the only regular proven players have been Declan. Have been Bowen, even Antonio's gone off the ball, etc. And of course, when Zuma's playing, so you could argue that we do have players that have been given consistency, and other players have been in and out. Hopefully, with the rest that they've had, etc. I hope the run now we can have is going to be a good one. Good evening, Trini. Hi, Stel. Those bids, if Real had no chance of happening, why would Leeds sell them? I totally agree. I think you're right. Why would Leeds sell? I think Leeds will sell Rafinha in the summer, but I think they want a lot of money for it. Let's scroll down. Paul Evans, all your hard work identifying targets, they should have you for a scout. If it was down to me, mate, we'd have bought at least 8 players and you'd have all gone, Stel, they're all shit. I told you. Thank you for that, Paul. Mike, Stel is all fake news to appease the fans. It's a Boris job. Thank you for that, Mike. Sorry. It's sorry, I thought you were accusing me of fake news. I apologise. There's a lot of stuff that's rubbish out there. Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. That I'm talking bollocks. That's appreciated. Daniel, when you have to look for positivity, it doesn't exist. Nothing will change until Sullivan goes, and new signings will be financed through the sale of Declan. I kind of don't want to admit that, but it does worry me, to be honest with you. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Gaza. I hope you're well. Daniela, I'm not surprised we and other top teams did not buy anyone. Also, though, everyone was overcooking how much activity there was going on. There wasn't a lot of activity, to be honest with you. A few clubs made signings. Aston Villa did. Of course, Newcastle did. We kind of expected it, but there you go. Patrick, you're not wrong still. We still haven't brought anyone. No, I'm not likely to either. D-Lee, just like an Alan Sugar Tottenham transfer window, chasing fantasy. Who else have we got down here? Let's scroll down. Mark, for me, Calvin Phillips makes sense, would be alongside Declan in the short term. How refreshing if they would sign a replacement before departure. Not so sure about Rafinha. I get the Rafinha. I absolutely agree with you. Imagine us buying Calvin Phillips. Even if Declan did leave, we've got a ready-made replacement. He's a great player. I know we value Declan. I'm not saying that we should let him go, etc. But we might not have a choice. I do get the Rafinha one because Moyes doesn't like buying strikers. Moyes likes buying attacking midfielders and turning other players into strikers. You could see Rafinha coming in and then Bowen playing up front almost permanently. I get it. I get that. Bernie, I've never believed this channel has made up many stories over transfers, as there's no need, as we have hundreds of social media stories about us. Thank you. Really, really appreciated. Let's scroll down. Vino, I need to change tactics. Crowell and potato salad as defensive midfielder and give Declan a role further up. I actually don't agree with that. I really don't. I agree with maybe giving Crowell more opportunities in the team, but I think you should release potato salad. I don't think Souček should be stifled by having to do the defending. In fact, it's Souček that's the box-to-box midfielder. It's Declan who's the defensive midfielder. I know Declan wants to be a box-to-box midfielder. I get it. It's great for his career, etc. But do what the team needs. Don't do what the individual needs. Let's scroll. I've really got I'm going to scroll down as far as I can. Trini, I get fed up with players who say that's nonsense. I want to play in the Champions League. Why would you have done to what have you done to think you should be in a Champions League team? Yeah, I understand that, but Nunez isn't a Champions League team. I don't know if they're still in it or not, but I agree with your sentiment there. David, why West Ham only want a loan deal with Caleta-Car, but prepared to pay a substantial bid for Nunez? Exactly what I said. Yeah, for someone halfway around the world, everything does not make sense. Yeah, absolutely agree. Do forgive me. I'm not going to be able to do all your comments. Hammer Mold, good evening. Hammer Molder, good evening to you. Morning, mate. A lot of dummies being thrown out the pram this morning. Oh, I can imagine. I've tried to steer clear of Facebook. I don't have a Twitter account, thank God, and I have tried to steer clear of Facebook. You can't really believe that there were bids on Nunez and the Leeds players. Surely you're not that. I think there probably were. I think the bids were just not realistic bids. I think we probably made bids for them, but I just think our bids were not. The bids we made were not realistic. So I kind of do believe that we made bids, but we've made bids that were going to easily be turned down. That I think that's a difference. So I think the bids were made. I just don't think they were good enough bids, to be quite honest with you. Father Snowman, Newcastle sold the dream and got players in. On Pete's show this morning, Andy said we should give up Premier League position and go for Europa League and FA Cup, which I agree. I'm still saying let's go for every one of those. Let's not just throw our eggs in one basket. Let's go for all of them. And I'm sure David Moyes will go for all of them and see how far we get. And I don't know why I've got it in my head that I think we're going to do something well in the Europa League. Oh God, I know I'm crazy. Tovar, good evening to you. Nunez and Caleta-Car would be massive for West Ham. 2 key positions. Absolutely agree, mate. Patrick, so hold on, we make a last minute bid for Nunez and Benfica apparently again, see, this is it, apparently they had 2 strikers ready made to replace him if the bid had gone through, but it's like people have said, I don't think the bid was actually were actually real. I'm very well, Anton, doing the show all by myself and I've got 10 minutes to go for dinner. And let's scroll down. David M. West Ham knows Lingard deal ain't going to happen, so they've wasted time. Should have focused their attention on other players. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Let's scroll down. Mark, for Jesse Lingard to sign for West Ham on a free in the summer, are we better or worse off with him remaining at Man United rather than joining Newcastle on loan for the? It's an interesting one. In some ways, we are, because imagine if he'd really enjoyed it at Newcastle and really relished it, got him out of relegation trouble, and you imagine the money that Newcastle will throw at other players in the summertime. Lingard might have gone, closer to home, why not stay? So in a way, it might have done us a favour. Let's scroll down. Father Snowman, Stel, the Italian transfer window was shut at 7 p.m. Total lies. What's Zapata? I don't know, mate. I didn't know that. And I don't know if of all of them, of the 6 bids that we've been told, that one came out of the blue last night, that apparently we made a bid for him. So you may be absolutely right, Father Snowman. Let's scroll down. Mandy, I reckon Moyes has a list of players that will be out of contract in the summer or just 1 year left. These are the ones that will come in for us because the window was a fan show. And Mandy, you're spot on. I think I should invite you onto the show to talk about those 3 players, because that's exactly what I said about, I don't know, about half an hour ago. That I think Moyes is going to be going for a lot of out of contract players in the summertime. Trini, that's a fascinating stat still. Would be interested to see what our defensive record compares to. Was that about the stat of us scoring more goals? It's amazing, isn't it? I was like, are you sure? Yeah, and I checked it, and it was like, wow, we have scored more goals under our current manager than we have since Billy Bonds. David Moyes, Mr. Defensive. David M. And on the Stella have done nothing wrong. I don't know. I'm avoiding those, so do forgive me because I've got to go. Bozo Zoku, good evening to you. Sick of this club. They can't do anything right in the transfer window. Calm your pants. Calm your pants. Cyber, will some hibernate me? Will some hibernate me? I hope you're well, Cyber. Patrick, I think that's more to do with having a far better midfield than previously. We're creating more chances with the likes of Bonefort. Yeah, and long may that continue. We do have some good, very, very good players in our squad. Kevin, the saddest part of losing out on Lingard is that he'll continue to warm a bench seat at Man United when he could be helping us, absolutely. And he'll probably lose his England place, or the potential to get into the England squad for the World Cup. I get it from the Man U point of view, but it's just spiteful. Absolutely. Just like it was spiteful to play him for 5 minutes in the FA Cup if Rangnick wasn't going to use him again or sell him. Tovar, Kaleta is regularly playing against Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, and the standard is international. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't risk or lose money on him. Absolutely 100% agree with you there, mate. Hammers Mikey, good evening to you. £50 million bids for Rafinha and Phillips was just a cover up to say we tried. Should have at least got Kaleta in for 15 mil, then sold Diop. I would have kept Diop and I would have bought in Kaleta as well. Let's scroll down. Adam, I'm just annoyed that we didn't bring a defender in. We're shipping too many goals, and that area is the one we needed to strengthen in. Absolutely agree. Let's scroll down because I'm trying to avoid certain comments. Deliberately, I am. Daniela, it's not over yet, everyone. Arsenal and Man United have brought no one. Spurs cannot score for toffee. They have +2 goal difference, which is not top 8, let alone top 4. Yes, it's going to be tough, but that's life. We need to earn our right to be in the top 4. Not buying Kaleta might turn out to be an error for Moyes this season. Pray that Zuma and Dawson don't get injured, otherwise the season's over. I've got to agree with you. That's what worries me. That's why I said I'm more concerned about not bringing a defender in over not bringing a striker in. Kaya, good evening to you. Lingard was never coming on all a smokescreen. We're never going to sign anyone. All agreements were always going to be made in the summer. We've got a big summer coming up, though, haven't we? We've got a big summer coming up. Daniel, sorry. What worries me is that when our form dips, it will be struggling players that will get the fans' anger. Masuaku, Diop, Dawson, Yama, and potentially even Yarmolenko. Yeah, they will be the scapegoats, won't they? And in some ways, I kind of feel sorry for them. In other ways, it's like, well, we built that rod for our own back. James, I feel I need to go on a march soon down to the village pub. Hammers Mikey. Moyes just hanging out and out and out for Lingard in the summer on the cheap to avoid getting a striker in. I'm sorry, but Moyes has had his time and reach limit now. No, I don't know yet, Hammers Mikey. I want him out in the sun. No, 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 no. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not a Moyes out advocate. Far from it at the moment. I think he's done wonders for us, and I think there's a lot more to come. And if you talk to the Everton fans, you know what they'll say: be a consistent top six contender. On occasion, we might make top four. It won't be. It won't be a regular thing. But then, if you think about it, there's teams that have got so much money they can buy their way into the top four year in year out. Now you've got Newcastle, in addition to the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United. They can buy their way into the top four. You know, it's always going to be difficult. For me, if we keep getting European football, you know, top six, with the odd occasion of making top four, and I'm not expecting us to do top four regularly, with the odd occasion, I, for one, as a West Ham fan, 59-year-old West Ham fan, will be cock a hoop. I'd be more than happy with that. And if that's what Moyes brings us, I would celebrate that every season. And if we can get a cup run in there as well and win a cup or two, even better. You know, I think we've got to sort of realize the fact that, you know, as much as we all want it, and I want it, I want Champions League football. I would love that Champions League tune to come out at the London Stadium with the players walking out. But, you know, there are other teams that are much better equipped to be able to do that. Now, if we want to replace the board and get a mega rich, you know, like you know, the people that have bought Newcastle, etc. You know, you're going to pay for, you know, you pay your soul to have owners like that, you know. But and I'm not backing the board. Don't get me wrong, but there aren't that many teams that have got that much money to just throw at any player at any time. I can imagine. I bet they go. Mbappe's on a free at the end of the season. You know, apparently at the moment. I bet they go for someone like him. I bet they'll offer him something like £500,000 a week to go and play for Newcastle United. That's what I see Newcastle doing. We can't compete with that. So, well, Kaleta would have been a massive upgrade compared to Dawson, Diop, and Ogbonna. Patrick, scouting. What is your definition of scouting? I see scouting as finding a player no one has heard of. Putting in players already established doesn't sound like a scout to me. Yeah, good. Yeah, good point. Good point. And I did do in my Sunday West Ham Weekly show, and I nicked them from Nigel. I did put in two players from Nantes that weren't, they weren't rumored to be transfer listed to us. And I've got another fella, Kent Hammers, usually comes on the show, and I've asked him, can you give me a list of players, because he just knows his football. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start talking about players who are not listed, who are not linked to us in the transfer, but talking about, you know, what would this player do for West Ham United? Not, you know, so really good point. You're absolutely right. Scouting is about finding those players that are hidden gems. Don't let them wind you up. Don't get wound up, Anton. Bonnie, let's all remember the club you asked to back to. Let's remember the club asked you to back the European campaign by asking to buy tickets with opposition unknown 2 months in advance, and look how they repaid our faith. I was always going to go to this. I get your point, but I don't care if we play Barcelona or whoever it is. You know, I was still going to pay for my ticket and go. But I get the sentiment of that as well. Gonna have to forgive me one. I need to send a message because I'm going to be late. Right. Let's scroll down. Andrew. Sorry, Adam. The owners don't want to spend any money, just waiting for March next year so they can grab cash and don't have any money. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if I want to believe that or not. But anyway, I'll tell. Still, nobody should try to justify the inaction of West Ham. I want to hear from Moyes. I think we all want to hear from David Moyes, mate. I think we do. Trodge. We don't want to take on the investment needed for Champions League. Sullivan is petrified of us getting fourth. Let's scroll down. Tony. Evening, Stelios and Anton. We have made ourselves a laughing stock because Sullivan playing Blaggers Paradise by saying we're getting these players with big money available. The result, all nothing. Unfortunately, yeah. Gaza, transfer windows night, watching paint dry, waiting for a sign, and I couldn't be bothered to watch it last night. I don't blame you. Trini, Kral's not crap. In fact, he started more games in the Euros than Souček did and looked decent, so I don't get why he's not been subbed in earlier. I totally agree. I've really got to scroll down. I've got a question here. Stel, why do you think that Moyes decided to do the loan to buy? Would he be negotiating contracts? And I think the policy was established well before Moyes came to the club. We've done loan to buy quite a lot. Lanzini was loan to buy. Souček was loan to buy. We've had a number of players on loan to buy. I don't disagree with the principle. Was it a Moyes decision or was it a board decision? That I don't know. I think, from my understanding, that Moyes has a preference of a loan to buy deal. That seems to be his preference. Is it the club's preference? I don't know. We bought Vlasic. That wasn't a loan to buy. Got Ben Rama in for a loan to buy. We bought Vlasic. That wasn't a loan. We've had players in from both. Bowen wasn't a loan to buy. He was an outright purchase. So I don't know the answer to that, Patrick. My understanding is that's what Moyes prefers. Lauren, thank you for that comment. Let's scroll down. Tony, it just proves how ambitious our board is, and even with the new guy in, nothing has changed. What we should see is a statement from Moyes voicing his disgust at the transfer window. Let's hear from him. What if David Moyes say this is on me? Because my understanding is, he said last week, I stand by my decisions in the transfer window. It's on me. So what if he comes out? Will he be covering the board's arse, or would you believe him? It's going to be an interesting one. I've got to scroll right down because I've really got to. I've got to get going. Anton, I've certainly not lost faith in Moyes. I'm surprised so many have, but everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Eamon, Danny Welbeck and Sturridge are free agents. Surely offering someone like that 6-month contract is worth a punt. Welbeck scored against us last season, didn't he? Yeah. Let's scroll down. Smudge. I really have to question whether Newman has a cognizant plan that is being worked on outside the transfer window. Nigel mentioned it last night, and I've got a feeling this. Even though we want to see business being done now, I've got a feeling what they're doing is they're planning big time for the summer. Fuck me, they better be doing. Tom G. If it was down to the board not buying anyone, Moyes would have walked today. It proves it's Moyes. See, everyone's got a different opinion on it. Victor, in the past we have panic buyed. It's time not to buy someone for the sake of it. Hope those days have gone. Let's get the right players in and not just anyone. I do agree with that. But the one that I was really surprised at, as I said, I don't care too much about the strike. Not that I don't care too much, but I'm less concerned that the Coletta car deal for me was the one that made me go, what is going on? I get it for the other ones, late bids, silly bids that aren't going to be accepted, etc. I get it, or bids being made too late when it's not possible to do a deal. I get all those, and I could discard those out of my memory. But the Coletta car one for me is the one. It wouldn't have been a panic buy. We've been linked to him for much longer than this, just this transfer window. In fact, it goes back to when Pellegrini was here that there was interest in this player. So that one for me is the one that made me go, what the hell's going on? Good evening, Chris. I hope you're well. If it was up to Moyes, Rice would have never played in the first team. Moyes has a higher winning rate, but very rigid in transfers. Said it before. Burnley signed Cornet, Moyes, Vlasic. Judge yourself. Vlasic may still come good, though. He may still come good. Good evening, Kent. I've just picked you up. We need 7 or 8 players in the summer. We've got 13 good quality players in the squad. The under-23s possibly only 3 to play, so that leaves us with 16. I worked it out to about 6 players, mate. I think that we need, unless of course you start getting rid of certain players in the squad, like Vlasic, for example, and then that then you need another player to sign and so on. I'm trying. Tony, I'm really trying to hurry up. I really am. Chris Green, not spending so Rice and Bowen want to leave. He can cash in on a combined 150, 160 million, then sell the club. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. Good evening, Lee. We've shown we can compete with the big money clubs with a squad who fights for each other. In Moyes, we trust we are massive. And I've always said it's not about the value of the player. It's about what the player brings, whether he's a £15 million player or a £50 million player. I'm really shocked that now, apparently, after I've said there's no way we're ever going to spend more than £30 million on a player. I'm really shocked that all of a sudden we've been putting in bids, if they're real, of 50 odd million pounds. There you go. I've got to go. So I'm going to go. Let's see. Good evening, Mateus. We are still in the game with a great squad. I hope to improve the form of a few reserve players and play well in the first team. There you go. You never know. We might still be massive in a few weeks' time. Victor, thing is, we can all moan about the board and say we want them out, but can they be trusted to sell to the right people? Be careful what you wish for. Look at Everton. Very, very, very true. Chris, GSB doing everything on the cheap, ready to sell for March 23. A lot of people convinced on that. A lot of people are convinced on that. Paul, bids were never going to be accepted. It's done so many times. It's done to fool the fans. They're trying to get signings when it's never going to happen. Andrew, Lingard will be a bench sitter at West Ham next season with all these summer signings coming in. Cams, I'm scared for the rest of our season right now. I really don't see us getting where we need to without strengthening. But we do have a good squad. We do. Not a deep squad, but we not a lot of strength in depth. But, I think there are 14, 15 players that can do a job for us. It's defence I'm worried about. Trini, people keep mentioning the teams above us did not bring anyone in because they have massive squads already, and we don't. That's a really good point. Martin, Lingard not moving to West Ham was very disappointing. Man U are complete shambles. They're in a complete mess on and off the pitch. I totally agree. And I'm going to call it, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do 3 more and that'll be it. Rainbow. It's just a ridiculous window. The title should be just a ridiculous window. The title should be what went right, which is nothing. So many players that are quality that we could have signed. Cabral from Basel has gone to Fiorentina. He'll probably do all right in Italy. Not so sure about Cabral in the Premier League. Victor, we have never had back-to-back top 6 finishes in our history as a club. Moyes is the one that's pushing for that, and we are way ahead of where we should be. Great. Right, Pete, that's it. That's your lot. There are so many more comments. I just cannot fit them in. It is on the table, not here. I've still got to get to it. So thank you, Lee. I will enjoy. Well, I'll enjoy what's left of it. I bet the bloody cats have eaten it. Thank you all very much. We'll be back tomorrow. I don't know, lunchtime show, maybe evening show. Who knows? Just, watch out for the subscribe if you haven't already done so. Even the ones that hate us, subscribe and build up our clickbait. Thank you very much all for watching. Really appreciate it. Have a very, very good evening and we'll see you soon.